Europe. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's online forum, Reimbursement and Regulatory Trend in Software as a Medical Device in Europe. This is Lynn from Anchor Media, and it's my pleasure to be the moderator again. We are very pleased to have you join us and learn from the experts' insight on how innovation and compliance intersect in the fast-evolving field of digital health. Today, the audience are from Asia, Europe, America, including Taiwan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, France, Austria, and the United States. So in June, we had the webinar for US market already. Today's section focuses on one of the most critical area for global medtech and digital health companies, how to navigate the European Union's MDR, IVDR, and the newly implemented AI Act, as well as how to build evidence and reimbursement pathway for SAMD in the European market. So first of all, I would like to express our appreciation to the guided organization, Department of Industrial Technology, Ministry of Economic Affairs in Taiwan. This event is organized by Science and Technology Law and Science and Technology Law Institute or Institute for Information Industry. Meanwhile, we would like to thank for the co-organizer Medical Device Innovation Center of National Cheng Kung University from Taiwan. Lastly, thanks for our media partner, Anchor Care and Sourcing Cares. As innovative medical devices are transforming healthcare, but their market entry depends on clear regulation and reimbursement. Today, two leading experts will share their insight on navigating this crucial aspect. This event is expected to bring you the reimbursement system and the regulatory of software as medical device in the EU market. We are grateful to have Mr. Isaac Middleman as the first speaker today. As a relator director in strategic fundraising of EIT Health, Mr. Isaac has extensive experience helping digital health and medtech companies enter and scale within the European market, especially in areas involving AI-driven and software-based medical technologies. He has led numerous initiatives focused on digital medical device evaluation and reimbursement framework across EU member states. Hello, Isaac. Welcome. You can say hello to our audience.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about today's webinar, so thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming today. And we are looking forward to your presentation later. Secondly, it's our pleasure to have Mr. Roger Chen, Director and Founder of Lead the Way International. Roger has more than 20 years experience in medical device regulatory strategy and testing across multiple markets, including the EU and the US and Asia. Wow, it's global markets actually. It covers all. And he specialized in helping companies design multinational regulatory strategies and navigate the compliance for medical device software and AI-based healthcare products. Hi, Roger, you can say hello to our audience. Turn on
Hello.
your, yeah,
Hello. Yes.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you for having me today. I love to share my experience and hopefully it's helpful for everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. So thank you to gentlemen, and we are looking forward to listening to your speech. And now, before we begin, I would like to introduce you the distinguished guest with us today. We are honored to have Ms. Liu Yi join us today. Liu Yi is the representative of the Science and Law Institute for Information Industry as the legal researcher. Let's welcome Mr. Liu Yi for the open remarks. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Maybe good morning, good evening, and welcome to our webinar. I'm E. I'm a legal researcher at a Triple I SDLI, and today's section is organized under the guidance of the Department of Industrial Technology, Ministry of Economic Affairs, and hosted by SDLI. And first, I'd like to express our sincere appreciation to the Department of Industrial Technology, MOEA, and its continued support in strengthening Taiwan's research capacity in biomedical law and policy. And of course, thank you all our partners from industry, governments, and academia, and clinical community for joining us today. And I believe we all see the same trend in advance in personalized and precision medicine, Bio-ICT, and biomedical chips are driving a new business model. And at the same time, they raise in flash about regulatory challenges, especially when it comes to SAMD today. And so I believe many teams, many companies in Taiwan just starting to expand into the international markets. But there's still a lot of uncertainty about the compliance, reimbursement, and even how to position your market strategy. So I think that's why we are here today to talk about how to reduce regularity uncertainty early on and how to help Taiwan's team, Taiwan's company think through the full journey from the beginning RMD and market authorization, and most important to think about the reimbursement issue. So we are honored to have two excellent speakers with us today and who bring firsthand European insight. The first one, as mentioned, Director Isaac Middleman from EIT Health. And the second speaker is Director Roger Chen Weibing from Lead the Way Consulting from Liwei Guoji. And we are also grateful to Ms. Lin Rui Hui, who is sales director from Uncle Media, Uncle Chanmei. and she will be moderating today's discussion. And with their conversation, we will dive right into the issue that mattered most to the industry from the EU frontline. And finally, at STLI, we hope to continue serving as the bridge for the cross-border knowledge exchange, helping our industry bring to market solutions that are not only compliant, but also globally competitive. So thank you all for being here. And to be honest, please feel free if you have any questions and ideas, just share it with us during the section. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Liu. Thank you, Liu Yi. And your full support from the Science and Law Institute of the Institute for Information Industry to organize this meaningful event. Thank you again. And now let's get back to the agenda accordingly. Mr. Isaac Middleman, he will discuss key considerations in European regulatory and/or reimbursement reviews for SAMD from an AI and digital perspective. I would like to hand over the following 30 minutes to Mr. Middleman. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Isaac Middleman. Hello, Isaac. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone. It's a real pleasure, as I said, to be here and to address you today. So I've prepared some slides, which I will go through during my presentation. As you know, they will be made available afterwards as well for reference. And of course, when talking through a subject as complex as medical device regulation, you might have specific questions that you have in follow-up. And so I'm very happy, of course, to take them in the Q&A. But also to take them one-to-one in future if you'd like to reach out directly. I am Isaac. I serve, as I was introduced, as the director of the accelerator entity at EIT Health, supporting startups and scale-ups as they scale within Europe, but also non-European companies to access European markets and European partnerships in order to continue to develop their value proposition. And just as a quick comment, since I know we have a very international audience, but nevertheless a strongly Taiwanese one as well, that I actually lived in Taiwan for 2 years, much earlier in my life. And so it's a pleasure to be able to address the Taiwanese ecosystem in particular, because I believe that we have a lot to do together that is somewhat challenging to build alone. And so if we can support the Taiwanese ecosystem to engage more strongly with European patients and markets and ecosystem players, then in my opinion, that's a very good thing indeed. So just to get us started here today, I'm going to start by going through a little bit how we work on the digital medical device and software as a medical device topic at EIT Health. Some of the challenges and problems, but don't worry. At the end of my presentation, the second half will be about how we can potentially work together to capitalize on the opportunities and to overcome some of the challenges that many of you on the call will already be aware of. So at EIT Health, we have been working on this topic of digital medical device, as we call it, as a general term, for many years now. We had a very large kickoff event back in 2021, as you can see on this slide, that was attended by the French President Emmanuel Macron at the time, to really launch a large-scale initiative across Europe to support the fast track to market of digital medical devices and software as a medical device. So we have been working on understanding where the pain points are and working to deliver solutions for quite a few years now. I just wanted to start with an overview of the problem statement around digital medical devices in Europe. So if we look at the European ecosystem, we have more than 15,000 patent applications in the medical technology field filed every single year since 2021. Every single year, more than 15,000 patents are filed. And yet we know that approximately 70% of healthcare professionals do not regularly use digital solutions in their clinical practice due to a lack of knowledge or a lack of trust in digital technologies. And about 30% of US venture capital funding flows into digital health solutions in Europe. So in short, there are lots of research patents, there is a lack of implementation in the market, and there is also sometimes a lack of funding for digital medical device and software as a medical device in the European ecosystem. So our objective as a European body is to increase the awareness and understanding of digital medical devices by hospital staff and healthcare practice practitioners, to help identify where their real needs are in their practice that can be solved through digital technology, and to accelerate the development, evaluation, and validation of patient-centered digital medical devices in Europe. Of course, we do that for innovations and patents coming out of the European research ecosystem, but we can and do also do that for innovation coming from elsewhere around the world, in Taiwan, in Asia, and in elsewhere that the attendees of this call might be from. Why? Because we all know that ultimately a patient or a doctor does not care where the piece of technology that they use originates from. What they want is something that is safe, effective, and cost efficient, and that is what we are here to support ultimately. But to do that, we have to overcome these existing hurdles in the European market. So I wanted to give a concrete example of an initiative that we have built over the past years around the digital medical device and software as a medical device topic. So we worked directly with the German government in order to operate what we called the Diginovation Fast Track program. And what this was the ability for EIT Health partners, hospitals, corporate industry players, startups, health insurers, and others to be able to accelerate their entry to the German market by having EIT Health vet, evaluate, and support innovations that addressed Germany's digital medical device and software as a medical device clinical needs. After vetting and supporting those startups with our experts and KOLs, those that were selected received, if they were European startups, up to a 350,000 euro grant from EIT Health to support their market access in Germany. Why? Because what we were basically doing here is validating a novel and faster way to access the German market, making sure that the policy looked good on paper, but also actually worked very well for the companies involved. As we all know, sometimes processes look good in theory, but don't work very well in the real world. And so the goal of this program for us was to ensure that the fast track into the German market for these technologies actually helped those technologies to truly enter the German market effectively. That allowed the technologies to receive EU body labeling, as well as subsequently to generate both sales and fundraising and commercial partnerships in the German market. And this is typical of how we work, sitting at the intersection of government, innovation, and industry stakeholders to push innovation into the market in a validated way. To build this kind of initiative, everything that we do as EIT Health is part of a task force or consortium-like approach. And so you can see that we are engaged here, and you can see some of the logos on the slide with a range of public and private actors. But I will focus here on the public ones. As you know, the European ecosystem is still somewhat fractured from a regulatory perspective. And as an EU body, we are able to collaborate directly with the government entities in the European member states to understand how they evaluate digital medical devices and software as a medical device, to then help companies approach those bodies and actually effectively engage with them to get the regulatory and reimbursement approval that they need. Because the reality is that the way Austria looks at some devices is not the same way as the way the Netherlands does, is not the same way France does, and so on and so forth. And so you need these individual relationships in order to do it effectively. And that is something that we have now operated for many years and that we can bring as a benefit to partners from around the world. We are also operating this task force because, as I said, while the European ecosystem is fractured, our ambition is, of course, to make it be a single entry point with that fractured regulatory and reimbursement landscape being reduced over time. But to do that, those bodies that I talked about on the last slide need to talk with one another and understand how they evaluate technologies differently today so that they can build a joint approach to avoid the duplication of assessments and to accelerate patient access to proven technology across Europe. And so what we are doing is using these individual companies and individual case studies that we work on to prove the point to policymakers and national bodies that they should lower the boundaries, lower the hurdles to facilitate cross-border access to the European market. And after many years, 4 or 5 years of working on this, we are now seeing some concrete improvements in the European ecosystem. And I will share more about those in a second when it comes to harmonizing and consensus building and proposing a single regulatory framework. What do we hear from the bodies in terms of partners or industry players? It's important to understand what the regulatory bodies in Europe see as being the challenge in this space so that you can address those concerns in your application. So one is that it is still hard to translate the software as a medical device benefits into the traditional clinical endpoints that the payers, the health insurance bodies, rely on to understand the impact of an innovation for patients at scale. And so one of this is really making sure that we are going to the regulatory and reimbursement bodies, explaining concretely to them, this is the tangible impact of this technology for patients, and this is how this connects to how you as a payer understand the cost of treatment and the cost of care when it comes to the disease area that the software as a medical device addresses. And this is where we need to continue educating the government entities to be able to understand these new clinical endpoints. The other one is evidence generation. It is sometimes the case that individual startups or SMEs and technologies struggle to generate robust payer acceptable evidence within a reasonable time frame, meaning sufficient data set sizes, sufficient evidence from a randomized control trial or from real world evidence of the impact of the piece of technology on the care pathway of the patients in question. And we see a lot of questions coming from the regulatory reimbursement bodies about showing sufficient evidence at scale to make this point well. And this is in the European ecosystem what they want to see in order to support large-scale rollout of the technology in their question. Finally, there are some health economic evidence barriers, and that is that even clinically effective apps, for example, digital health applications, may be rejected if the economic case is not convincing. So this is something around, for example, showing that the patient retention or the user retention of the new technology is very high over time. We have had some European bodies accept digital health apps, build reimbursement codes for them, but then after 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, etc., the patient usage of the technology goes back down, and the regulatory reimbursement body says, actually, we are not retaining and changing the way care is done in this space. And so was it really worth the government creating approval for this piece of technology if the patient data is not, or the patient usage rather, does not remain high over time? And finally, and you all know this already, of course, is the diversity of payer expectations across the European member states. We know this as well. What the French payer system is looking for is not the same as what the German or Swiss or Dutch or UK, of course, ecosystem is looking for in terms of reimbursement. And now, to add to that, and I believe others will be talking about this later on in their own presentations, we also have the European AI Act, which I'm sure most of you on this call have already heard of. But just to go over this quickly, this is an additional piece of regulation that has been put in place back in August last year, 2024, to attempt to provide a baseline of trust and safety for artificial intelligence across all technology areas and all areas of innovation. So not just health, but rather a range of industries, of course, including healthcare. And the goal there is for medical AI to be implemented safely and responsibly to prevent harm for citizens, but also to drive innovation in medical AI. And it's added as an additional layer on top of the MDR, IVDR, and an additional layer beyond the privacy regulation that is the GDPR, that I'm sure you are all already familiar with. Again, I won't go into too much detail here, but essentially the AI Act works according to risk classification, with the utilization of AI being ranked from minimal risk usages, for example, spam filters that are AI-based in an email inbox. We all want those to work very well because spam is quite annoying to deal with, but it's not a safety concern, right, per se, all the way up to unacceptable risk, which is things like manipulating brain function or social scoring or biometric categorization of populations, which are banned, completely 100% banned in the European ecosystem. So this is about breaking the usage of AI down. Most medical AI solutions will be ranked as high risk, so this Article 6 level, because of course it touches human health and social health, and so there is risk involved in the rollout of AI. So in year one, which came to an end last August, a few months ago, we basically focused in Europe on the banning of the unacceptable AI usage in that top level of the pyramid that I just showed you. And what we now see moving forward is the refinement of the categorization of how to address the other risk categories and the usage of AI. So as you will see here, by the 1st of August 2026, there are obligations on these high-risk AI systems that are going to be rolled out. And that's particularly AI used in biometrics, in infrastructure, in education, etc. And so there are lots of regulations being rolled out. The burden of proof is on the technology to approach and to prove that they are conforming with the regulations in place for the risk usage of AI in question relevant to that. Challenging timeline, definitely, although I'm sure you are all already very aware of this. As an anecdote, I find that in Europe, sometimes our startups and SMEs are less aware. When I was in Taiwan in July at Bio-Asia, I found that the Taiwanese ecosystem in particular was already very aware of this regulation. But where I would hide, so that's good, bravo. But what I think is the challenge here is exactly how to demonstrate the compatibility with other regulations and to really get the certification when it comes to the AI risk compliance. So this sits on top of the MDR, IVDR requirements. The goal currently is that the MDR, IVDR improvement, because I think we can call it that, a smoothing process that is currently being rolled out, will integrate the AI Act compliance for high-risk systems. So it will not at term be two processes, but a single joint process that will do both at the same time. And the German BfArM, for example, which is the German government regulatory body, is pushing hard in this direction. But high AI risk systems for now is not covered already by the CE marking or by the same documentation. And so there's still two filing requirements as it pertains to this regulation. Not to scare you, but non-compliance comes with high penalties. I mean, we're talking 15 million euro fine if you violate the AI Act obligations, or 3% of the organization's total turnover. So the EU bodies here have put some teeth behind these rules. And so, of course, it's very important to be actually compliant with the regulation. It's not just a simple administrative process. So here's my simple statement before I conclude. This sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. It's a lot of complexity as it pertains to the ecosystem between the MDR, IVDR, the AI Act, the alignment between the member states, and the final step, especially for non-European bodies, is which market do I even go to? Which market is worth targeting? Which market represents the fastest, easiest way to generate traction in the European ecosystem? Those questions on the ground level are also, of course, very important. So here's where I'd like to talk a little bit about what I think we can potentially collaborate on together. And that is that through our services as an EU-wide organization, we have dedicated initiatives around the orientation of companies or industry partners developing specific technologies. So not only the startups, but also the industry partners who might be pushing innovation into the market, to help them identify which European market, given the technology in question, is going to likely be the easiest, fastest, and most remunerative market to enter as a startup, as an SME, or as a new piece of technology coming out of industry. And then, having identified such a market, to help push the company in the right direction in order to be able to achieve the regulatory approval there. How do we do that? So we are looking for technologies that are, of course, active, that are incorporated, that are innovative, that are ready to scale out, and that are market validated in their home ecosystems. Of course, we need to work here with technologies that are already generating real-world data and real-world evidence, and where the European market is attractive, but you don't know necessarily how to do it by yourselves or how to go it alone. And that's where we can really help you. And I would just say that I think there's a lot of attraction to certain European markets, the big ones, France, Germany, the UK, for example. But in our experience, it can be easier and actually better for technologies to first go to a smaller European market that is sometimes more innovative, much faster moving than the large EU ones, to start generating relationships, sales, and regulatory approval there. It can also be cheaper. And then from there to then enter larger European markets subsequently. So we are really able to help you identify where to go first and to help you to do that. What's the value add? We have a tailored approach where we are not giving you content that is simply generic. We are working with each individual company one by one, or with the company backers, or with an accelerator or innovation agency, for example, individually. We have about today around over 100 staff based all over Europe. And so we are present in the local ecosystems. We are not doing this from abroad or from one place in Europe, but rather in those markets to really be able to help push you in the right direction. We work with external expertise, but we also have a lot of in-house competence, and that is key. We are not simply reselling you the work of consultants, but rather really doing the work ourselves in a partnership model. And we have a strong track record of doing this. To date, over the past 10 years, we have helped about 200 companies enter new European markets and new European regulatory landscapes. So we have been doing this for about a decade, and we have a very strong track record doing it. How do we do it? Over an initial 2-3 month period, we work with you, we assess, and we evaluate which potential markets could be relevant. And then we support you to work with local partners, typically the notified bodies and the regulatory reimbursement bodies, in order to actually unlock regulatory reimbursement approval in the markets in question. So this is based on what we find together and what your strategy is of European market access. And just to end, because I think it's important to do so, this is our mission as an EU organization, and that is that we sit at this intersection between research, business, and education. We are, as I said, physically based all over the European ecosystem, and we are able to support these collaborations between innovative companies and innovation coming out of industry research, out of hospitals, or out of clinical practice, out of academic research, to really partner with the European industry players, European investors, and European markets. And it's going between these different worlds of research, education, and business that is our European mandate as a European Commission and European funded pan-European, not national, pan-European body. And I would highlight that that's an important message as well, particularly for non-European companies, is that we do not work for one European country. So we are not giving you the answer of that country, no matter which question that you ask, but rather we are non-biased and a third-party neutral entity collaborating within the whole European ecosystem. As I said, we are physically present all over, and I highlight here not just the large European countries, but also Central and Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, and elsewhere, and increasingly building these collaborations in North America, for example, in Canada, but also in Asia, in Japan and Taiwan, in Israel, and in other ecosystems around the globe. So our mission is creating simplicity, or at least comparative simplicity, in what is a complex European ecosystem. And finally, we run a range of initiatives and a range of support functions. And I have just talked about one today, market access in Europe, but for technology that is sitting between the tech transfer and the scale-up and internationalization stage of innovation. And so once we work together to help you unlock the European ecosystem, we are also able to help you sign things like strategic partnerships and R&D collaboration with industry, to help you to fundraise from European venture capital funds and other European investors. So we really would see for non-European companies and non-European innovation, the market access and the regulatory reimbursement approval as step one in a bigger partnership that we can build to strengthen your foothold with and in the European ecosystem and with and in European players, investors, industry, markets, and so on and so forth. So the gateway is the market access, but then after that, of course, there are further collaborations that are possible. So I know that's a lot of information and a big overview. I appreciate your patience and your time. I'm very happy to take some questions now, but I hand back over to you, Lynn, as the moderator, and thank you very much for your attention, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Isaac. Thank you for the excellent presentation. Your insight on European digital health reimbursement ecosystem and regulatory, also the strategic steps for Taiwanese innovator entering into the EU market, were truly inspiring. Especially you say you are trying to lower the boundary or the barrier for the company to enter to access the European market. I think, yeah, we are quite happy to hear that. Yeah, just lower the barrier. So my dear friends, if there's any question raised by you, please leave your message in comment section. We will have the US session later. So meanwhile, may I remind you, please check in via the Google link shown in the comment section. After you complete the checking process, then you could download the speaker's slide successfully. So now we are moving forward to the next speech from Mr. Roger Chen. Today, Roger will share with us regarding from MDR, IVDR to the AI Act, regulatory submission strategy for SAMD in the EU. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Roger Chen. Hi, Roger.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. And now is my turn. Let me turn the slide to the first one. Okay. Thank you again. Let's have the regulation part for the medical device. We will talk about the regulation perspective about how to prepare your documentation for you, so you can apply for the MDR, IVDR, and get the certificate to market your product in Europe. As you know, Isaac also mentioned that now we have the AI Act in Europe. We need to consider it. So we will talk about a little bit about the AI Act. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Roger Chen. In Chinese is Mandarin. It's Chen Weibing. I was working for the several certification bodies since 2003. First of my experience about the TIC industry, we call it testing, inspection, and certificate industry. Was starting from UL, it's a US company, and then I joined the DECRA, which is one of the notified body for medical device in Europe. and then ECM. Now I have my own company called Lead the Way International Corporation, focus on the regulatory support for manufacturers. I was responsible for the Asia countries for decode and UL. That's me. So let's back to the topic. We will have 4 sections today. One is about the medical device regulation framework. I think the reason why we're starting from this is there is no so-called AI AI medical device regulation or some innovative device regulation. If the product can be defined as medical device, that will fall into the scope of the medical device regulation. So I like to talk about a little bit about the medical device regulation. Then let's discuss about how the software can be defined as medical device, and then focus on how to evaluate the safety and effectiveness. You also can say safety and performance of the SAMD, software as medical device. Then we talk about the AI Act. First is about the medical device regulation framework. Here is the medical device life cycle. You can see we separate that from 2 parts. One is pre-market, before you launch your product to market, and after you launch your product to the market, post-market. Between this, you need to submit your evidence. We call it evidence, like the how you prove your product is safe and the performance claim as what you claim for your product to the regulation body to assess if that meet the regulation requirements. So from beginning, you have the idea of the product, and then you start to develop your product, and then you do the testing and evaluate the product performance and safety, like doing the verification and validation, etc., until you are ready. Then you can submit your documentation to the regulation body, or you can call it certification body, to do the assessment for your submission. Once you get the approval from those notified body, then you can launch your product to the market. So let's have a look on the regulatory structures. So what you need to submit, you can see the yellow part. If your product is defined, can be treated as the medical device, meet the definition of the medical device, and then you need to prove your safety, your effectiveness, as what we just mentioned. And then for the green part, you need to have a good quality system to show you are capable to produce those products can meet the safety and effective performance requirements. And those green part and yellow part, you need to submit all the related documentation to the certification body or assessment body to do the assessment. And all this is under the management by the government authority, which is the blue part. So that's about the structure for the regulation. If we combine that together, so this is when you submit your documentation to the certification body to do the assessment. So yellow part is reflect to the orange and yellow part here, and green part is the you can see the green part, the quality system here. So regulation is another individual work, or you just prepare for the regulation. All the documentation, all the data is generated by your daily work here. So regulation is not just one-time work. It is a continuous work. Even you launch your product to the market, you still need to checking for the what is happening in the market of your product. So that basically, that's the idea. Let's have a look further. So in Europe, if you are in the industry, you know that now the regulation is called medical device regulation in Europe, and the number is 2017/745. for medical device. And another one is IVDR. It's related to in vital diagnostic device. And the regulation number is 2017/1746. You see the 2017 here. So they start to discuss about the regulation since 2017. And now it's all transferred to the new regulation we talk about here. So if we look at the life cycle, for the regulation work for manufacturer, you need to consider if your product can be qualified or defined as medical device. So how you claim your product is very important. And based on your based on the we call it intended use or intended purpose, which is how you define your product, based on the definition of your product to classify what is your product classification, like level 1 classification 1, classification 2, classification 3. We will talk about that later. And then based on that, to prepare the technical documentation, and also you need to submit in the quality management system information to the notified body, and then notified body do the conformity assessment. After you pass the notified body review, then you will get you need to prepare one of the documentation called declaration of conformity to make sure to claim you meet all the requirements. Then you can mark your product with a CE mark, and all the information need to upload to UDAMED system. And after you launch your product to the market, you need to start to perform the post-market surveillance or post-market clinical follow-up to track what is happening after you launch your product in the market. You're tracing the performance. You're tracing for the how your customer using your product, etc., to make it as to collect those product to collect those data as the clinical evidence for your product. So basically that's what you need to do. I think it also reflect to the product life cycle we just showed you earlier. And who is involved in the regulation? One, of course, is the manufacturers, and then authorized representative. If you are not the manufacturer inside the European, then you need to designate one the authorized representative to support you for the regulation work in Europe. And then your importer, distributor, also notified body to do the conformity assessment, competent authority who represent each country to manage those regulation work. And for the software as medical device, we talk about today. You heard a lot about the software as medical device, but also in the MDR has another definition like MDSW, medical device software. So we will talk about that later. Okay, now, so if software can be treated as a medical device, we talk about the intended use and intended purpose. You can see it here. In MDR, they use this term intended purpose, but in US, they use another term called intended use, which is how you define your product, how you define your medical device. That will drive the qualification. And it's based on if the device is for diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, prediction, or prognosis, treatment, etc., that is all referred to the definition of medical device from regulation. So that will drive how if your product can be defined as medical device. So if your software is doing those things, that also can be treated as medical device. And as for classification, we mentioned earlier, the decision point is about what is the clinical function for the product, or it's only for general awareness? Is it an accessory or it's a device? What is the clinical benefit, or it's for administrative use? So it can define you should define your device as clear as possible to cover the population, the disease, and etc. etc. So next one is about if the use of the device. Most of the time, you can treat it as medical device software. But if the software is performing this medical device function by its own, then it's a software as medical device. So there's a little bit different between these two wording definitions. And how you define is a medical device software, or how you define it's a software as medical device, you need to consider all these 2 points we just mentioned. And you need to document all this qualification. And according to the MDCG 2019-11, the MDCG 2019-11 is one of the guidance published by the EU for manufacturers to understand how you can define your product. I mean, how you can define the software as a medical device. Okay, what is the difference between these two? Here is more information for your reference. You can see software as part of a medical device, embedded or control affect hardware performance, evaluate with the device system together. Later we will talk about that more. Software as medical device, so software itself is a medical device. They don't need to work with other hardware. They can perform the medical device function by themselves. And for implementation, you need to consider this is the standard to evaluate your software. One is the IEC 82304-1, and for NDSW, most of the time you need to evaluate the software with the hardware together. So like if your product is X-ray machine, and now you are using the software to manage or control all this medical image. So your software need to work with the X-ray machine together and evaluated by the IEC 60601 series standards. That is for the electrical safety evaluation for medical device. And common category, both category need to meet the standard listed here. So the ISO 13485 is the quality management system standard, which is the green part we just mentioned earlier. ISO 14971, ISO 62304, IEC 62304, IEC 62366, etc., etc. That all required by the MDR, and we will talk about that later about the standard, what standard need to apply for. Okay, now maybe this will confuse you more. We use this diagram to explain what's the ASMD, what's the SIMD. You see it here. So SMD again. Software itself is a medical device. If you like to see more about the definition, you can search for the IMDRF SAMD working group N12. Their guidance final. This is the document number here. And software in a medical device, we explained in early 2 slides about what is the software work with hardware together. And now actually MDSW is covering both. So I use in previous slide we say often MDSW covering the software in the medical device. So this is the structure for your reference. If you want to talk more specifically, MDSW covering SAMD and SIMD both. But most of the time when we talk about MDSW, maybe we like talk meaning that is the SIMD here. This is for your reference. So for the classification for the software using with as a medical device, software itself. Now we're talking about SAMD by Rule 11 in MDR. If you look at the MDR Annex 8, that's the rules for you to determine what is the classification of your product. There are 22 rules for you to determine. The classification here we mentioned about is based on the risk level to classify the medical device, because there is a lot of different classification in the field, like how you if there's a particular function, or sometimes maybe we talk about classification as well. For the isolation of the hardware medical device, maybe there are different classification. But here is the regulatory classification based on the risk level. So oftenly for the software, it's typically output is class 2 for the decision, class 2A for decision support. You only provide the information for the doctor to make the decision if they also have they really also have some problem on that, or you are providing serious you are telling the user you have a serious condition, or you have the therapeutic decision, then the classification in the higher level, class 2A, or even if the information will cause some potential days, that will be class 3. So this is how you classify your product. If you like to see more, you can go to download the MDR and see the Annex 8 for the details. So if the product is classified higher than class 2A, that will involve a notified body review. So we will talk about MB, which is the notified body here. They will need to do the assessment for your product if you want to get the certificate from MDR. And classification memo, again, you need to have a clear evidence to support your decision. What is a decision about the classification of your product? So you need to keep all the documentation here. Okay, now once your software to be defined as a SMD, how you provide the evidence to support the safety and effectiveness of your product. Now we're talking about the yellow part. How you evaluate the safety and effectiveness of your product according to what standard? Here, the standard means like ISO 13485. This is for the green part. This is not the particularly for product, but all the manufacturers need to get this certificate. And you need to do the risk assessment for your product according to ISO 14971. There's another one we are not showing here, particularly for AI product, is ISO 34971, particularly for AI product risk assessment, and IEC 62304 software lifecycle, IEC 62366, that's to evaluate the usability, to avoid the misuse of your product. And another risk for the software, IEC 8000 or 80,002-1. If your product, that is all kind of software need to apply for this standards. If your product is SAMD, then you need to apply for 82304 for the product safety. And considering clinical evaluation, referred by, you check the IMDRF document, SAMD N41, etc. And if your product is MDSW, you evaluate the product with hardware together, then 60601-1, 6-1-2 EMC, -1-8 alarm system. If your product providing such information, this is for your brain, etc., etc., and this is for your information. Furthermore, cybersecurity. If your software working as a cloud-based software, or you are transferring all the data through internet, then you need to consider cybersecurity. MDCG 2019-16. Again, this is the guidance. If you find a document starting from NDCG, that most of the time, I think that's the guidance from Europe, EU, for manufacturers' reference. And for privacy, GDPR, Isaac mentioned that already. And particularly for France, maybe you need to consider HDS. For UK, you need to consider DTAC. That's the standard to apply for evaluating the medical device as software as medical device. But sometimes manufacturer may confuse by 82304 or 62304. Here is a diagram from the 82304 for your reference. So you can see that's a medical device use, or for other health use divided from here, and another separation is from here for specific hardware, for general computing platform, which means only software. So 82304 covering this area, and 62304 covering this area. So 62304 is more for medical device, no matter is software as part of the medical device or it's software alone. And 82304 covering more. This is more like a product evaluation, and this is more like you also need to consider after you launch your product to the market. Okay, data protection. We also mentioned that this is for your reference. I think we have only about 5 minutes left, so I will go quicker. For your reference, and technical documentation. After you evaluate your product by all the standards we just mentioned, you need to combine all those test report or those description of your product as a technical device, technical documentation according to the Annex 2, Annex 3 from MDR. Here is the information for your reference. I think Annex 2 basically is about how you combine those informations together, including the device diffusion, intended purpose, infrastructure for use, labeling, etc., etc. And Annex 3 is more like after you launch your product, what you need to do, like a PMF plan and what to collect, etc. And for software, according to 62304, you need to have a software development plan, software development requirement, your architecture, etc., etc. For the clinical evaluation, refer to Annex 14. So this is for your reference. And for conformity assessment, if your software as medical device under class 1, probably you can do the self-declaration. But above class 2A, we just mentioned that you need to go through notified body for the assessment and receive the certificate from notified bodies. Now it's about the AI Act. Again, this is the first comprehensive European regulation governing for the AI system. But I think this is not only for medical device, it's covering all AI system. Medical device just one of the areas. So Isaac already mentioned, it's a risk-based framework. So you have the prohibit AI, high-risk AI, limited risk AI, and minimal risk AI. So medical device is categorized as the high-risk AI. So you need to refer to what is mentioned from this section, which is the 6. And then it's not a replacement to the MDR, but integrate together with the MDR. So you need to this is talking about those AI products, what risk you need to consider. So here is who is covered by this act: the developer, importer, distributor, etc., etc. Of course, the manufacturers. Why the medical device AI is a high risk? As mentioned, it's as a safety component, or it's regulated product, and it's regulated. You can see that it's regulated by the MDR, IVDR. Potential impact the diagnostic therapy decision. So combining these two reasons together is defined as a high risk AI. What is the core application for those products? What to prepare? You see, QMS and the governance, you need to have a good risk management. AI involve a lot of data work, so data governance, technical documentation. You need to have those activity like developing activity, evaluating activity, be logged and traceable. And also those work need to be transparency and also not only rely on the software itself. No need to be accuracy. After you launch to the market, you still need to monitoring the performance and what is that performed. So if you look at all this, I think it's not too much difference compared with the MDR. It's only add on what need to be considered as the AI product. What's the characters? What's the AI character? Bringing the potential risk, and those risks need to be covered and considered and then be reduced. Again, what to consider under the AI Act? I think if you look all the list, all the information listed here, it's really not much different from the MDR. You just need to consider again what could be the potential risk from the AI product characters, and have those potential risk be evaluated. So how to fit that together? MDR govern device safety and performance. AI add the specific safeguard as what I just mentioned. And high-risk AI medical device conformity assessment align with MDR, IVDR rules. It's not a replacement. It's an add-on. Applications are integrated into the same QMS technical documentation. So there's no, of course, there's some additional work they need to do, but it's not entirely additional work. You work once. Again, it's considering the safety. So safety both empathy governance data and monitoring evidence into Annex 2 and Annex 3 we just mentioned. So here is the key takeaway. It's not a replacement. Again, AI specific risk and data governance with the rigorous safety performance evidence, plan for life cycle, engage your notified body early. I think Isaac, again, I mentioned that is pushing notified body to involve more on this. So consult your notified body as early as possible to understand what is the requirement and what you need to prepare for the AI documentation. Again, I like to address that this is not an entirely new work. It just combined with your evaluation for your product. So that's my part.
Okay, thank you, Roger. The
Thank you.
Step-by-step instruction for the very clear and insightful overview of how the MDR and IVDR frameworks connect with the new AI Act, and for highlighting the importance of integrating AI governance, data management, and post-market monitoring within a single quality management system. Also, it's like a tongue twister with several abbreviations and codes. Sometimes it's difficult to differentiate those abbreviations, but I think Roger has explained clearly in his presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, dear friends, if you want to have the presentation file from these two speakers, please check in via the Google link shown in the comment section after you finish the checking process. Then you are able to download the files. 各位朋友，今天来参加这个线上的论坛，必须要先上我们的那个 Google 的表单去填写你们的资料，才能够下载这两位老师的简报哦。So sorry, I need to use Mandarin to explain to our audience. So both speakers already finished their speech today. Now we leave some time for the two experts to take a breath. Thank you again, Isaac and Roger. Your talks are indeed informative and truly assist the audience to open the gate to European market. But there are some questions from our audience owing to the regulatory issue is really matter to everyone. Okay. Now, may I skip the panel discussion in order to answer the questions raised by the audience? Please pay close attention, and we are going to have a Q&A session. We have collected some questions for the speakers beforehand, and we'll do our best to address them as many as possible with our speakers. So here comes the question. The first one goes to Isaac. Okay, for your presentation on page 21, in supporting startups to develop market access strategy for their SAMD products, could you please share some successful cases with the audience? Are there any regulatory challenges or conflicts encountered, particularly in relation to the EU AI Act?
Sure. So as I said in the presentation, we've worked with about 200 startups and SMEs and technologies in the past decade through that market access support. I would say that about 60 or 70 of those companies are in the software as a medical device space or the digital medical device space as well. So we have quite a few success stories. I think I'll focus on one here that I think is maybe most relevant for this audience, and that is one from a company that did not originate in Europe. And that is, in fact, an Israeli company called NimBio. NimBio is developing a software solution for the patient monitoring of irritable bowel disease, colon cancer, and other cancers affecting the lower GI tract in humans. They are originally from Israel. They did something that I think will be quite relevant to some of the audience members here, and that is that they were born out of an initial collaboration in some research from some technology that came out of Europe, but they first commercialized in Israel. They
Mhm.
looked at the European market and they said, interesting, but looks way too hard for us to do. So they went to Asia, they went to the US first. They then approached us and said, okay, we are generating sales and revenue and we are scaling up. We would like to tackle this challenge of the European market. Where? With whom? How? Can you help us with these very simple questions? So we built a successful collaboration between them, Takeda, the Japanese corporate industry player, and 2 European hospitals, one in Belgium and one in France, in order to run a CE marking study in those hospitals to be able to enter as a first step of entering the European market. That program was part of our Open Innovation Initiative, as we call it. And so that is something that we built with Takeda, where they come to us as an industry and they say, we are looking for technology in this space, and we will help co-fund market access, regulatory reimbursement for the technology in Europe. And it's interesting that a non-European company was the winner of that program that we ran. They received the CE mark. We helped them get the regulatory reimbursement approval. Today, they are being supported in their European rollout, and we are expanding beyond Belgium and France into other European countries with them. So that's one example of how we are able to identify the technology, support it, identify financial support for the company to help pay for the regulatory and reimbursement access in Europe, because not only is it not cheap, but as entrepreneurs know, time is money. So if we can help secure financial support from public, but also private funding to help it, that's great, of course, for the company. But you need an entity that can help coordinate between the startup SME, the industry, the hospital, the regulator. And that's what our role is, to provide that coordination service within the European market. So that's one example. And of course, there would be more that we could share. Your second question, Lynn, I think was about the challenges and conflicts around the AI Act. So, I mean, I think Roger did a great job as well. Thanks for your presentation, Roger, on some of the specificities of the processes. I would say, as we are seeing it, the main challenge that we are seeing beyond what Roger presented, which is all of the different technical components, the main challenge is the fact that it is a new regulation, and that the national bodies in the European member states are themselves still understanding what it means to roll them out in practice. Yeah, Roger, you agree? Great. So this is the challenge, is sometimes we are seeing that companies are going with very good, very precise questions, and the body in Germany or Sweden or Spain or wherever is saying, give us a few weeks because we don't have a good answer to that. And so that is taking extra time as the regulatory body, as the EU body gets understanding of how to run this. So this is where I think the relationships with those bodies directly becomes even more important, because it's important that they know who you are, and that faced with 150 questions that they have to answer, that the question that you are asking is at the top of the pile, as it were. So I think this is where the relational, the contacting the notified bodies, the going via local partners who have very strong working relationships with the national bodies via the country, becomes even more important. So it's not a technical complexity, it's an operational one. And in the years ahead, when everybody is used to doing it and it's rolling more smoothly, I think it will accelerate. But for now, I think the pain point is often that their own unfamiliarity with the own regulations, believe it or not. So that's a challenge that has to be negotiated. And I think the best way to negotiate it, as I said, is through the relational.
Okay, I see. So they need to identify the technological part that they are and what kind of regulation they need to follow. But I think the most important is to find a correct and a suitable partner to work with to enter into these markets, of course. So next questions goes to Roger. Thank you. For the page 11, in terms of medical device software, if the software is embedded within a medical device, the process of a final product will contain the final assembly, sterilization, and packaging, and it shall follow the compliance with ISO 13485. But however, the software as a medical device, if it's a software solely, we may not have the manufacturing process like a final product. So how should AMD developer comply with the ISO requirement, or are there alternative conformity assessment pathways?
Okay. Thank you for the question. 3485. The 3485 is kind of the maybe I'm not using the right term, but you can imagine that the 3485 is kind of the guideline type standards. It's not like they have a 100 requirement. You need to meet all requirements. It's guiding you how you design your production system. So if your product is not involved sterilization, your product is not involved the packaging. Most of the product has packaging, but I just take an example here. Then your 3485 doesn't need to have such kind of process. You only involve the process related to your product. So I hope this kind of explanation is clear.
Yeah, I'm clear, but I'm not sure about the audience. Yeah, okay. It's a guideline standard instead of a regulatory issue here, right?
Yeah. Only I think it's similar to what kind of the standard your product need to apply for. Same. Depends on how you claim your product. If your product doesn't involve the sterilization, you don't need to do the sterilization evaluation. So I think that's the difficult part for the regulation, because there's only one regulation. But the medical device involve a lot of different type of medical device. This is the when the COVID-19 come around, then we have the face mask. Face mask, medical use face mask, also medical device. But what I just mentioned, the X-ray machine is also medical device. So the evaluation for this kind of two different product will have very different. So it depends how you claim your product.
Okay, thank you, Roger. So the next question goes to the Isaac. With the implementation of the EU Joint Health Technology Assessment, could you please share your observation on the development or frameworks emerging that specifically address AMD evaluation and integration?
Yes, so that's a big topic. So I'll try and be brief, but an important one. So as I said, there is obviously a need to align across both integrating different elements of regulatory reimbursement review, but also then aligning across member states in Europe, across the European Union. So the joint HTA, the EU joint HTA, is attempting to create a structured and mandatory pan-European clinical assessment and consultation route that is catalyzing the development of HTA methodological guidance that explicitly covers medical devices, including software as a medical device. And it's bringing in stronger expectations of real-world evidence and a need to align HTA requirements with the MDR and the EU AI Act. So there is basically, to put it simply, policy awareness of the need to create this joint HTA assessment. So what's actually coming out of that concretely is mandatory joint clinical assessments, which are being called JCAs. Sorry for the alphabet soup of abbreviations here, as always. That's creating and joint scientific consultation, JSCs, that are creating and providing early scientific advice to developers about evidence plans. Both apply to medical devices and therefore also to SAMD. And this centralizes the clinical part of the HTA across the EU and reduces the duplication. but it doesn't fully remove the national appraisal or reimbursement approach. And then there is a methodological guidance and templates that are targeted at devices, including software as a medical device, that are being produced. So there's this EU Net HTA 2021 deliverables and these kinds of alignments, basically, that are giving guidance on what the template submissions should look like. And then there is a cross-cutting guidance that we are seeing that's appearing. And that is the fact that an alignment between HTAs, MDR, IVDR, and the EU AI Act to make sure that what a good answer looks like to some of the questions that those requirements ask is aligned various pieces. But, and I will put this but in here because I'm being honest, we are still seeing fragmentation at the appraisal and reimbursement stage with national pathways that keep evolving. So there is a big push to align all of this, but as long as the reimbursement pathways are still different between the countries, there is always a portion of the assessment that will be different, and we will not have a true single regulatory and reimbursement landscape for Europe. So what are they looking at? They're looking at how to evaluate adaptive algorithms in a single JCA, right? And as a reminder, the JCA is Joint Clinical Assessment, right? Approach. What counts as an adequate real-world evidence is key here. What about data quality, endpoints, timeliness, the design of the studies? The question of economically modeling rapidly changing software. So this is particularly true with AI software that is constantly improving. Well, if it is constantly improving, how do I know that what this patient is getting is actually provable by what the patient yesterday received? If there's constant adaptation. So there is this balance between acknowledging continual improvement with stability of evaluation, as it were. And the final question is about interoperability and implementation evidence. So HTAs are increasingly asking about system integration, about user training, about clinical workflow impact, because they are realizing that in the software as a medical device field, it's not just the software, it's how people actually use this in the real world that can affect outcomes pretty significantly. So to wrap up and to kind of answer your question as simply as I can, there is the European Commission is currently preparing its budgets for the innovation years 2028 through 2035. What's called the FP10 period that will follow Horizon Europe. That goes everything from funding for basic research to translation and to rollout and implementation, including regulatory support. What we have heard is that in early 2026, we will be learning concretely how they expect to spend money and empower fast tracks in 26 and 27. That will get us in the direction of a single joint tech assessment process across the European ecosystem that they expect to roll out after 2028. So we are raising our hand to operate some pilot initiatives starting in 26, 27 in that space. So it's a bit of a non-answer, I'm sorry, but basically, I can't tell you right now what that will be, but by early 26, mid 26, it will be clear which types of software as a medical device, which indication and disease areas will be prioritized to support a real pan-European approach to this regulatory landscape. So this is a good time for us to be speaking and for me to be meeting with entities, because in the coming 6 months or so, there will be a lot more clarity that will be published in this space.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you for the updates for the EU market. I think the
You're
audience
welcome.
already got some new information from your side. So next questions will be for Roger on your presentation, page 15. When medical device software function independently with a relatively lower risk and no associated hardware, how should EMC and alarm safety tests be conducted? Would self-verification or internal testing be sufficient under such circumstances?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the concept is same as what we just answered for the question one. It's again, it depends on the how the manufacturer claim for the product and what's the product be defined. But clearly, the software will not involve the EMC and it will not involve the safety or maybe alarm. But alarm will drive the hardware, right? So I think for the evaluation for the software will be evaluate or testing if they are giving the right signal to the hardware. So I think basically that's the principle how to evaluate the software.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I think we got 2 minutes only. So I think I will leave the final question to Isaac. So
Sure.
according to the relevant regulation of SAMD, could you please advise the industry stakeholder if they are attending to get cross-border regulatory approval?
Yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I think this is a very good question and an important one, because I think sometimes when we think about this question, it's looked at only from the angle of the startup or the SME or the scale up or whatever you want to call it. In fact, the industry players, of course, have a very large role to play here as well. The short answer is absolutely yes. Industry stakeholders that are pursuing cross-border market access for SAMD in the European Union must now treat the regulatory and the HTA alignment as a joint compliance process and not two parallel ones. And I think Roger went through some overviews of the various elements here. We are also seeing a change in the culture within industry players, at least in the European ecosystem, where it used to be that the technology was very developed by the R&D side, and then you would have a regulatory compliance legal team side that would do that. And sometimes that regulatory compliance did not really get involved until the R&D basically said, okay, we've designed this cool thing. Here you go. Please go make sure it's compliant. What we are realizing is because of the complexity of this landscape and the need to align it, the regulatory compliance side of industry are having to collaborate much more closely and much earlier with the more R&D teams within their industry ecosystems, within the companies. And we have several initiatives. I won't go into detail here because of the time, working concretely with industry partners to help them collaborate better within their own companies between these different teams to make sure that the innovation is influenced by what we know is happening from the regulatory and compliance perspective. And that can really help accelerate the commercial deployment and development of the innovation for those industry players as well. So this isn't just about startups and innovative companies, it's also about the industry players.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much. I still have some questions for you both, but I think with the time limitation, I need to, get a conclusion now. So before we conclude, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to both of our distinguished speaker, Mr. Roger Chen and Mr. Isaac Middleman. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sharing your valuable expertise on the convergence of AI regulation and market access in Europe. And of course, thank you to everyone here for joining us this afternoon, evening, or morning, because we got an audience from the global part. So today we began a practical insight into navigating the regulatory and the reimbursement landscape for digital medical devices in the EU. And we hope today's discussion also provides you valuable knowledge and new perspective for your work in digital medical device, especially the software. You are welcome to visit the website of Science and Technology Law Institute of Institute for Information Industry, which provides the cutting-edge market information and global trends. If you need a consultant to develop a global market, today's organizer will be your first choice to seek a professional opinion as well. So at last, you are welcome to share your feedback about this webinar with us. You can scan the QR code or click the link from the comment section. It will help us to prepare and organize the next event. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So please fill out the feedback form for us. Yeah, to improve. And if you want to connect with these two speakers, you have their presentation, so you can connect them directly. Yeah. So thank you so much for your time, and I hope you do enjoy today's webinar. See you. Bye-bye. Hello，好了，谢谢。